Hey y'all, Vinny OG here. Wanted to go over some basics of formations before the new Clan Wars Season 14 starts. Really hope most people know and utilize training, but if you are not utilizing training, this is just such a crazy important feature. Most people are going to try and build out and fight their self. You want to try a dash versus a split versus a backstab. Make sure you're using your templates. Make sure you're always updating everything. That said, from a lineup perspective, you are typically going to see people line their tanks up. How you adjust and line up obviously makes a huge difference, as let's say a Radiant Warrior is going to most optimally buff all of these units. It does protect these backline units, and that might not seem like too much of a difference, but let's say this Frost Queen gets a few hits off on a Oracle who is a fire unit and is weak to water. Not only will that shield help, but also the placement of them back here really allows them to better protect themselves. You can kind of play around with placement. I've seen a lot of people put Oracle on the outside. This works too, as level 7 Oracle has a pretty large buff range. For me right now, I'm a little greedy in that I want to have a lot of overlap between who's getting buffed, so I have them more on the inside. Also, another unit I'd like to talk about really quick is Blastorf. I've seen him written off largely, and that was also my thought as well. But the more I've kind of played around with him, the more you can really get that attack speed up and then get hit by a Starlight Apostle and get that damage up. Not only are you increasing your chance to proc your skill, but you're also increasing the damage output, which is a coefficient of what the total damage is. So you can actually put out some damage, single target damage with this unit. That might be more focused on like garrison killing, but it is something I've noticed that's useful, and I think only going to become a more powerful unit the more area buff um, character troops come out. So what we are doing, we're playing training, but hey, that only covers our own units. So you'll get to an area or a time where you're really optimizing everything and you're just kind of doing the same thing over, making the same tweaks. A recent update that I'm not sure if a lot of people utilize either is if I go into my clan and I wanted to take one of the stronger people in our clan and duel them, I have a chance to go against someone who has a much, higher power output. I can see exactly what their lineup is, and I can say, okay, this guy's really strong. I see these units. Let's see what works really well against this. I don't want to do that right now. I'll save that for another video. But I do really think that this is kind of if normal training is training light, that's training plus, to where you can really hone in what your build looks like against stronger opponents with different types of defense. So this all ties into, as most people know, but there might still be some new people coming into Clan War. Your defense that you use in Clan War is what other players will be running into. So you're going to have a build for attacking garrisons, and then you're going to have a defensive build for sitting in a tower and holding that tower. And if people come and attack you, you're obviously not using the same build I would use to, say, attack a garrison, for example. But that is for a later video. I did want to make a more advanced video, but from a placement perspective, you're really looking mostly to have frontline units in the front, though there are use cases. If I did decide to go to a different lineup and say, okay, well, I have some back end units here, and I've experimented with this tanky group hitting the front line, but my tanks melt a little too quick. I want a second line of just something to come and help protect these last little bits of front units before they start melting my kind of multi-unit groups here. That also helps protect if something, say a flank comes over or a backstab, you do have a little bit more beef in the back to help absorb that blow versus having some of your softer units take those hits. So play around with it. Make sure you're understanding your formation, their uses. Make sure you're playing around with your flanks, backstabs, splits, dashes, and know your weaknesses. That said, I do have a more advanced breakdown coming up, but I do think that this should help any beginner to intermediate player understand what they are trying to look for when it comes to building a formation and what they should see when an opponent comes at them. Hope that helps. Thanks.